guys get some balls down here in preparation for this video. A couple of disclaimers. The first one, not a sponsor. The second one, there are probably like 7.5 billion people on the planet, and there are probably about 12 that I'm better than at one pocket. So if you're looking for any, really good one pocket advice, there are a lot of people better at it than me. A lot of people way more experienced at it than me. But I do try, and I do have a decent memory sometimes. Just not prepared to make videos, because I just got up from a nap. So the other day, a week or so ago, or 15 years, if I forget, time flies, I did a video about if you have a shot that you're always expecting to make every time, and therefore you're probably going to shoot it every time, then if you ever have a problem with it, you should work on it. If I don't think I should ever miss the 6, and yet I do in some match, then sure, practice the 6. As silly as it sounds, I'm not learning how to make the 6 in that case. It's just a muscle memory type of a thing is all that is. Pool's one of those games, just like a lot of physical activities where you can't learn it from a book. You learn it by doing it. So there was that, and then more recently I put out a video about some practice drills that I've picked up, and I'm not a big practice drill guy, but sometimes I will do them. And so I did a video the other day about, a series of drills that I think are kind of fun and useful. One of them was like this: just shoot these balls in sequence in the pocket. This was like Saturday, I think, that I did this, and I feel like it's kind of useful. And this, that was a Burt Kinnister drill that one of his videos talked about. And I've since expanded that. There are more variations and stuff. But anyway, so in a comment to that video, I'm finally going to get to the damn point. Can you believe that? Somebody asked me about anything specific to one pocket. And I've already said my disclaimer about one pocket, but so a lot of the drills that I talked about the other day, are specific to one pocket. Put these balls here, shoot them all in his pocket, one pocket. One of the variations was expand them out, expand it out. You don't necessarily have to shoot them in numerical sequence. In this case, you can if you want, depending on your skill level. You can if you want. You can also take all the other balls. This was another drill that I talked about, and set up the L drill. Shoot them all again into one pocket. So there are some drills that are more generally useful for pool, but can be made to be specific to one pocket. If I think of any more, I'll talk about it. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about with me and my practice of one pocket is not so much drill based beyond just these little things here. Drill based for me one pocket for me is much more practicing a shot or a situation, as opposed to running 3 or 4 or 5 balls, whatever, in some type of order. It's, hey, you got this. It might be the last chance you get to shoot an offensive shot for a while. Maybe you should work on it or do the right shot with it, I guess. And I guess that's another thing. A lot of it isn't even about making the ball. I want to talk about it's at least as much, probably more, depending on whether you're old school, new school, whatever. It's at least as much, don't sell out anything to your opponent as it is you want to make a ball. Perfect world, you do both. And that's my dehumidifier beeping. It's nothing's going to explode, I don't think. In a perfect world, you do both, but the world's not perfect. Last time I checked, I haven't been outside today. One of the things that I can do is I can pretend that's the stack. This is like after the break in one pocket. After the break in one pocket, a lot of times there'll be a situation like this where this is my pocket, and sure I can see the 9. I can't really make the 9 because the rack's in my way. Whatever balls are remaining tend to stay clustered up around here at the beginning of the game. So I can't really make it, but I can practice getting it to miss the balls, and maybe even get the cue ball back to something like this. I can practice stuff like that a lot. Practice stuff like, if that's my pocket, this is a fairly common shot. It's also a fairly common shot to screw it up, but I can double bank this ball and draw back. Again, I don't particularly want or care if the 9 goes in. Would have been nice, especially because I drew back 800 feet too far. I was just trying to draw back like this. A lot of things like this come up in one pocket better. Maybe an offensive opportunity, but mostly it's get something towards your pocket and don't sell out. And every game is different, every situation is different. You can come up with a million of these. Little 2-ball situation right here. This is my pocket. If I feel good enough about making the 9 to come around for the 6, maybe that's something that would be a good thing to practice. How do I want to come around for the 6? Because while it's not that tough, if you've never done it before, you might have a tendency to come all the way up here or something like that. And that's never good. This is a solid rack of wood, but in reality, in a game, this would be a jumble of balls, or may even be something dead in here somewhere for my opponent. So we don't want that, but I do want to get around that stuff. And if I'm shooting well, I can make that and come up here. See, I came up too far, but me at my level, I'm probably still going to shoot that. I'm probably still going to shoot that, even if my opponent's got something like that. I'm probably still going to shoot the 6, because back to my earlier point, I can shoot the 6 and he can't see the 9 because of shit in his way. This is assuming there's nothing else that will go for him. But honestly, I don't really expect to miss this 6 very often. So that's a shot I would shoot. If you're the more cautious type, maybe more of an old school one pocket player, maybe you don't shoot that. Maybe you leave it, because it is a threat on your side. Maybe you do something else. Maybe you do something like this. Now your opponent can't see the 6, and the 9's on your side. Every situation is going to be different, and you have to look at your own abilities. And one pocket is a great game because you're always learning stuff. I don't think anybody ever runs out of stuff to learn in that game. Sometimes a little bit later in the game, you'll be able to do stuff like, let's see. Oh, this is another pretty common shot. Maybe this is my pocket. My opponent let me see a ball on his side of the table. He didn't want to. He wanted to leave me like here. But he messed up, and I can see that ball. Okay, great. What do I do with it? This is a shot that comes up often enough. A 2-railer towards my pocket. Leave the cue ball on the other side of the stack. It comes up often enough, and that absolutely doesn't hurt to practice it. You can have a shot. Yeah, he left me something. I'm trying to think. Maybe I thought of this earlier, and now I got to come up with the angle. So y'all are gonna be able to tell from the angle anyway. I could bank to 6 and probably shoot a stop shot. I could bank to 6 towards my pocket and probably shoot a stop shot. But sometimes you might not want to do that. Sometimes I might want to prioritize getting the cue ball over here against the stack of balls. And that means I'm just going to bank the 6 in my area, not trying to make it anymore. Maybe I can bank the 6 and have it come down like this and come off one of these balls, and maybe even go in, maybe even something goes in. So in this case, instead of hitting a stop shot, I would cut this ball just a little bit to the right, which is going to send the cue ball just a little bit to my left. You do it like that. You see what I was talking about? I mean, that's good anyway, but if this ball had come down and went off like that, it would be even better. Assuming those are balls, not a wood rack. That kind of thing comes up fairly often as well. There's always a nice not always, because sometimes it's just going to be an offensive shot, but there's very often a nice balance between try something offensive, but don't sell out the game to your opponent. You can have one of the shots that I always had trouble with. I think I talked about this in one of my, well, I know I did in one of my earlier videos, is if this is my pocket right here, I feel pretty darn confident about just shooting this ball like it's going to go in the hole, even though that time it didn't. I think another thing I mentioned in my video last night or 2 nights ago or 5 years ago or something is stop talking at least long enough to shoot. Don't be shooting and talking to the camera. That's split brain syndrome. Pretty good example of it, actually. So I feel pretty good about doing that. But I wouldn't feel as good about it if the situation was like this. The top players, they don't really have any big problem shooting this like bottom, a little bit of left, shoot it slow, cue ball drifts up this way, and then they got the 6 next. When I have to shoot a shot that slowly, there. I have been practicing that shot, but for the longest time, no, I'm coming up like too far. And if I didn't make the bank, which isn't likely, I would have sold up to 6. So many things that, yeah, I watch these commentators and stuff, and they'll say, especially some of the older commentators, they'll say, don't play the table, don't play your opponent. You know, you play the table, you play the right shot, but the right shot does differ, and the right shot differs for the most part based on who I am, not necessarily who my opponent is, although that can change as well. I can leave my opponent here, and he's probably not going to shoot either one of those balls, especially if I have anything anywhere near my pocket. But there are some people who are just going to fire the 9 in. Some people are probably going to jack up and fire the 9 in. Thanks, Dave, for selling out the game. So you do have to play your opponent. You also have to play yourself. I'm not going to shoot this 9 because I'm not good at that. I'm not good enough at that shot. Put me up here, yeah, I'm probably going to shoot the 9. But you know, some people watching this may not even be good enough, or they're just overall more of a cautious player. You know, playing for $1 billion or First Born Son or something. You do have to play not just what the table gives you. That's going to limit you on what you can do. But another limiting factor is how good are you. And another limiting factor is what's your opponent really good at. Like if I left Josh Filler up here, he's firing this 9 in and making it, and then he's going to make the 6. Federer, of course, probably the same way. That is another limiting factor. So don't do this. Don't leave them here. If I'm playing one of those guys, and I got a chance to do that, that's probably safe. But some of those people, I wouldn't even know that for a fact. But there are shots that come up. I don't really want to call them trick shots that come up that you can shoot because you can get the cue ball back and get it safe. I can shoot that double bank and get the cue ball. There's a stack here. I can bank a ball, not to make it, but to get the cue ball back in the stack. Another thing that can happen, this happens fairly often on breaks, and I don't want to throw all the balls out on the table, but every now and then a shot will come up where my opponent just broke. And that's just pocket. I can't see the 9. And maybe I don't feel like, or maybe I can't. I can't see the two. Maybe I don't feel like trying to come off the 6 kind of passively, come down here. Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I can't see enough of the 6. I can only see the right side of the 6. But one of the shots that's fairly common, it's more of a desperation type of shot, is just control the cue ball on that shot and hit it hard enough. And that was bullshit what happened with the 2. But shoot a bank and come around 4 rails. It's one of those shots that looks tough, and it's not easy. But once you shoot it enough times, you kind of realize, it's not as tough as you think. It's not as haphazard as people think. I'm just not shooting the ball hard enough. There are some people that are just, very good at that, judging where's that cue ball going to go, what angle is it going to take. So I can actually hit this shot, hit it a little bit harder. So I'm not going to do it. But one of the things I always say in my videos is pay attention to what I say, not what I do. I say that to myself all the time. That's what I'm talking about here. It's a fairly common shot. I just don't have the angles right, I guess. To bank a ball into the stack or back into your area, it's in the cue ball around the table. As the cue ball comes in, it doesn't scratch, and nearly as often as people might fear. A lot of times they'll come a little bit short. And of course, that one I hit too hard. But the top guys, if they want to put the cue ball like that, that's probably what they're going to do. They're just very good at it. They shot it enough times. They know coming around the table what kind of angle they're going to have coming in. They can make adjustments. And I think that's kind of a fun shot to do anyway. Because it looks a lot worse than it is. I can't do it right today. That's for damn sure, can I? Still not going to get it. That might have been okay, depending on where the actual balls were. I feel like I'm already rambling and barely scratched the surface of one pocket. Even for what little I know, I could go on for days and weeks about what I think about certain situations and things you can do and things you can do to practice and stuff like that. I think I've covered the main things I want to talk about. And there are some drills. Just use your imagination. If you have a drill that can be worked, so you're only shooting into one pocket, then it's probably a good drill for one pocket. Because you're going to get, oh shit, I just thought of one. Damn it. See, I knew I was going to think of something. That's why I was stalling. So, when I was first trying to learn the game, I would do stuff like this. That's my pocket. And I would do stuff like shoot the 9, try to come up for the 2, like that. And then if I had the right angle, which I almost did, come up for the 6. That's another thing that's fairly common to do that. Now, there's no rule that says that has to be the order you shoot or the way you shoot them. So I had the wrong angle on that middle ball, but I could have probably just drawn back, make the ball first, David. Okay, can't make that ball. Something's wrong with the 11. Anyway, and just draw back. If I had my speed right, you can do that. A variation might be like this. Again, this is my pocket. Practice shooting the 6, coming up, shooting the 13. Unless you get too much angle. Now I'm going to talk about the angles here. Were I playing again with one pocket, because I just came up this far, it's a tougher shot. It's going to be a stretch, but I probably sold out the 11 to my opponent. So that's not ideal. Ideal would be, you want an angle because you want to bounce back up again. But if my opponent wants to cut that, I'll just shake his hand. And I'm assuming that the banks are blocked at this point. Oops. Hey, I made the 11 though. Did you see that? Just, I wanted to talk about, this was a situation that I had yesterday. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago? I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. So I was doing this little drill I just got done showing you with 4 balls. And what happened was I shot the 7. I'm going to have to use my hand on this because I have some demonstrations. I shot the 7 and tried to come up for the 12. Yeah, I came up a million miles too far. It was about, I said, okay, that's fine. There's no rules. It's my drill. And I'll shoot the 1 next. And come over here and then shoot the 12. And that's what I went to do. Went and made the 1. This is not the angle that I got. This would have been great. But I had a little series of situations with this kind of a shot where I was like, well, that was interesting. And I hit them all pretty well. So if I had the angle I wanted, then it's just about making the 12 and having the proper speed control. Making the 12 and having the proper speed control. Did I mention that 5 seconds ago? Okay, and 13. So another thing that I can do, depending on my angle, is if I have just a slight cut to my right, in other words, I'm not straight in, I don't have this angle, which is ideal, I have a slight cut to my right, it allows them to just make it and draw straight up for shape on the 13. Assuming that it did that, right? If I have a little bit more of a cut than that, not a lot more, a little bit more, you get a feel for this kind of stuff. Then a lot of times I can go 3 rails for shape. I hit all these some, and that brings me to an interesting point. I'm already yammering, but it's too late to stop now. So, if the shot is too thin, then I get too much speed on the cue ball to take that 3 rail route that I was just talking about. This shot here is better. This is a little bit too steep, too much of a cut to try to draw straight back this way. But it's probably perfectly fine to just follow 1 rail. As long as I miss the ball. Which, yeah, good shot, Dave. Miss the ball. If it's a little bit less steep, come around this way. Every time that I'm shooting it, I'm trying to not leave an easy shot for my opponent on the 13. I guess I'm assuming there's no other balls on the table at this point. The absolute worst thing to do in this situation, again, you know, I need a ball with my opponent, he's 1. The worst thing to do is leave myself straight in. Like I did just yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever. I let myself straight in. This is the worst thing to do. It's the best thing to do for the 10 most likely, but not if I want to make one another ball. The straight in, there's only 2 things I can do at this point. The one that I would typically do is just shoot a stop shot, maybe come back a little bit, and then shoot a straight back bank on the 13. The reason I would choose this option is because I can hit it with top. I leave the cue ball way up there. I'm less likely to leave a shot if I miss and the object ball is here and the cue ball is way up there. If for some reason I don't want to do that, I could do straight in again. I can just draw straight back and bank the 10 the other way. Usually, well, depending on the layout, but on this layout, I can do the same thing. This is a little bit of a cut to my left to get the 10 to bank, and the cue ball is going to have a little bit more speed. It's a little bit harder for me to control. But I still think this is something that you practice. These are the kind of shots that come up a lot. Things like that, okay. Yeah, I missed the ball, but I didn't sell out the game. That's, one of the main goals, like I said, of One Pocket is, don't sell out the game. Figure out what you can do. Pick a pocket. Maybe put another ball out there. You don't want to sell out that other ball. The practice, opportunities are endless. We're pretty darn close to it. If I'm playing a game of One Pocket right now, and I need them both, I probably should be shooting that damn 13. But if my name was Tony Chohan, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably going to shoot the 10 and try to move that damn 13 because I don't like it where it's at. Now, I didn't move it. I can try to bank it or something. But I think what Tony would have tried to do would have been come in at it like that or something like that. And maybe get a cut at it. 'Cause the scratch would have been pretty hard luck to scratch off that 13. How long is this video? Is it long enough yet? Whatever. I could have possibly come down here and been able to bank the 13. I don't remember where it was originally. I think I'm done. Yeah, so that's this video. I could yammer on for hours about One Pocket, and some of it might even be, correct. Some of it might even be correct for, for you. But I don't want to yammer on for hours and hours. So I'll stop it right now at, 27 minutes. Sorry, guys.